Coming in asking me things about supplements, food, and and different modalities like acupuncture. I had no idea. I didn't know where to look. I didn't know there was any evidence backing, if it was good or not. So I decided to do the fellowship program. It's actually an ongoing program. I thought to myself, yeah, I'm going to do this for 2 years. I'm going to have this great certification. Well, what I did learn is that wellness is really an ongoing journey because they're constantly doing research just like medicine, and you're forever learning. So I learn from my patients every day, and I learn from research. So I hope I have more tools in my tool bag. That's why I went there. So the University of Arizona, this is their definition of integrative medicine. It's a healing-oriented medicine that takes into account the whole person, body, mind, and spirit, including all aspects of lifestyle. It emphasizes the therapeutic relationship and makes use of all appropriate therapies, both conventional and alternative. So that's from Arizona. That's their definition, but this is my definition that I like because it's shorter. So to me, integrative medicine basically is a coordination of care between conventional medicine and then alternative therapies that have been studied and proven to be efficacious. So, and then still adding in the therapeutic relationship. But I think that comes naturally. So what is evidence-based? Evidence-based is basically when they study a treatment or a modality, like acupuncture or massage, and it was found to be of benefit with objective evidence. And so the government thought this was important. In 1991, they funded NIH to develop an Office of Alternative Medicine. In 1998, they made this office a whole center. It was funded by Congress. I think they gave them like $2 million to develop the center because more alternative therapies were being used by the public, and they just wanted to get information out to the public. So I think it was in '93, a little bit earlier when I was still in office, that they actually made all that research public. So in December of 2014, they changed the name to the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health. And if you go to that URL on the bottom, it gives, you can search like an herb, you can search rhodiola, and all the research that comes up on rhodiola will come up. It's really pretty cool. So this is their mission: to define through rigorous scientific investigation the usefulness and safety of complementary and integrative interventions, and to provide the public with research-based information to guide healthcare decision-making. So, in an integrative assessment, all these aspects of a person's well-being would be taken into account. So, social connections, conventional treatment. So what are they already diagnosed with? Are they taking any medicines? And then are they taking anything over the counter, what those supplements might be? How are they sleeping? Do they have a meditative practice? So what's their mind-body connection? Are they spiritual? What do they eat? Do they exercise? And I think I already said social connections, because all of these things are going to intertwine to make a person feel happy and content with their life. So first we do the assessment, and then we develop a care plan based on what we find after the assessment. And so that could include, a lot of conventional medicine, and then complementary modalities. So there's many modalities. It could be acupuncture, aromatherapy, Ayurveda, which is Indian medicine, biofeedback, botanicals, chiropractic, manual medicine, nutrition, hypnosis, massage, meditation, naturopathic medicine, spirituality, motivational energy, or interviewing, and Reiki, which is energy medicine, and then movement therapies. So Tai Chi, Qigong, those are both like moving meditation practices. And then, of course, exercise and physical therapy. So a person may need a little bit of some of those things, to find a balance, to make them feel balanced within themselves. And then sometimes they need some level of conventional medicine too. It just really depends on the picture, on how they present. So NIH, the National Institutes of Health, they did a longitudinal study where every 5 years they looked at trends and complementary practices, what people were doing. For mind-body medicine, it was yoga. Yoga was really popular in 2012. I think that's the last time they did the surveys. And then natural products. I think it's 17% on that slide. We're using natural products. And so that was actually omegas were the highest used natural product, then probiotics, prebiotics, and melatonin. So today I'm going to talk to you about these integrative modalities. So all these things up here can have their own lecture in itself. So I'm kind of like simplifying quite a bit. So we'll talk a little bit of Chinese sorry. Am I talking too fast? Okay. So Chinese medicine, acupuncture, meditation, massage, aromatherapy, movement, nutrition, and then kind of just give you guys some ideas about how to buy safe supplements, because I think it can be really hard with being a consumer. So we'll start with traditional Chinese medicine. So evidence shows us that traditional Chinese medicine is good for depression, acupuncture, insomnia, chronic pain, arthritis, back pain, carpal tunnel, headache, many gastrointestinal disorders, so nausea, diarrhea, constipation, indigestion, certain food allergies, acid reflux, that's what gastritis is, fibromyalgia, infertility, circulatory disorders, addiction disorders, allergies, sinus pain, and asthma. So a lot of things. And, Chinese medicine has been around since like 2,000 years before Christ. So, that in itself shows how efficacious it is, that people are still using it to this day. And there's this awesome research. So the foundational principle in Chinese medicine is having a balance between yin and yang. So yin characteristics in a person would be that they're cold, they're slow, maybe lethargic, or passive. That they'd be like the passive principles of life. And yin is considered blood flow in our body. Yang is when a person has more characteristics that are hot, they are easily excited. It's more the active principles of life. And that's considered, yang is considered our qi, which is our vital life force. And so it's a balance between yin and yang, where like I said, a person is healthy. And I think a good way to think about it, like they're not always going to be like exactly, if you think about 50-50, it's not going to be like that. They're going to be kind of like how our diurnal days go, like the 24-hour cycle of our day. So if you think yin is more like midnight and yang is more like high noon, that, you know, throughout the day there's changes, and they, you might be high on yang but then low on yin, and so they kind of counterbalance themselves. So when you get an imbalance of yin and yang, you have a blockage of blood flow and you have a blockage of your qi. And so the acupuncturist that you go to is going to do their assessment and decide what modalities might help you come back into balance. So those modalities could include acupuncture, moxibustion, cupping, Chinese herbs, massage, and manipulation. So the acupuncturist will have a prescribed set, or they'll decide on prescribed acupuncture points. And if I hold it like that, is that better? Okay. So those acupuncture points actually have been mapped out, and those are decided by the 12 meridians of our body. And so those points have more neurons at those specific spots. And so when those neurons get stimulated, it talks to our other body systems. So it will talk to our lymphatic system, our endocrine system, and then our circulatory system to kind of help balance our hormones. Okay, so I have some acupuncture needles. You can see that my picture there on the right, that's a match. That's a match, then there's a syringe, and then a sewing needle, and then the acupuncture needle is quite a bit thinner, and it's actually pliable. It's not pretty pliable. I have some to pass around. You can open them up, just don't hurt yourself. I have more. So they do acupuncture on kids. These are kids' needles. So when they do acupuncture on children, when they do acupuncture in kids, they don't leave the needles in. So 7 and under, they just put it in and take it out, just to stimulate the neurons. If they're over 7, they might leave the needles in. They leave the needles in for about, I would say, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the child, but still a lot shorter than with an adult. So. Did you take those other ones? Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you. Okay. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. So, moxibustion is when they use an herb called mugwort. This is mugwort, or it's Artemisia vulgaris, and it's called moxa. And so what it does is they light the herb, and then they are going to put it around the acupuncture points, and it brings heat to the area. And heat supposedly is supposed to enter the meridian and remove the obstruction to help with blood flow and then qi flow. So this is moxa. And then there's cupping. So this is a cup that an acupuncturist acupuncturists would use for cupping. And cupping is really good because it's a good way to detoxify the body. And what they do is they would have a cotton ball and they dip it in alcohol. They then light that on fire and they put that in the cup. That then sucks all the oxygen out, creating a vacuum, and then they're going to stick that on the skin. And you can see how strong the vacuum is on that picture down on the right side. It's actually pulling the person's skin up. And it will commonly leave marks on the skin. So it's thought to break up obstruction by pulling toxins out of the body and then again stimulating your blood and your chi flow. Okay, so that is acupuncture. Does anyone have any questions? That's like acupuncture in a nutshell. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about meditation. So I really like meditation. It has a lot of evidence behind it. So it's good for anxiety, reducing stress, helping with depression, chronic pain, and reducing blood pressure, and then insomnia. So there's a lot of different ways to meditate. I usually, when I'm in the room with a patient, will talk about the 4-7-8 rest cycle because it's easy to teach someone in a short period of time. And the whole thing with meditation is it's really hard to calm or quiet the conscious awareness. And so you have to give your mind something to do. So with the breath meditation, you're counting. With mantra meditation, you're either repeating a word or sound or phrase. So I'm going to have us all do breath meditation. So uncross your legs and put your hands on your side or on your lap, wherever you're most comfortable. And some people like to leave their eyes open when they meditate, and some people like to close them. I think it's harder to keep them open. If you keep them open, it's good to focus on just like one object. And that I think it's just harder to quiet the conscious mind with the eyes open. So we're going to take a big inhale in through the nose for a count of 4. So go ahead, breathe in. We're holding for 7, sorry. And now you're going to exhale for 8. You're going to push all the air that you have in your lungs out of your body. So let's repeat that. 4 seconds, inhale in through the nose. Hold. Exhale out through the mouth. And again, inhale. Exhale, pushing all your air out of your lungs. Do you feel better? So the cool thing about the exhale is that switches from in the parasympathetic nervous system. There's 2 branches of it. So there's sympathetic, that's thought of as your fight or flight, like that goes up when you're anxious, and then there's parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest, is what we call it. And when you make your exhalation last longer than your inhalation, it actually switches over to the parasympathetic nervous system. So you're lowering your pulse and your blood pressure. So that's how that works. So mindfulness has a lot of research behind it. There's a lot of branches of mindfulness. They have mindfulness eating, but the most studied and most known is mindfulness-based stress reduction that was developed in 1979 by John Kabat-Zinn out in the University of Massachusetts. So there's lots of great research on that. There's online programs. That's what that NDSR, that's from an online program called SoundsTrue.com. It's not, well, I don't think it's that expensive when you look at the other programs. But, if that's something you're interested in practicing, that's a good website, the SoundsTrue.com. So, mindfulness is basically the act of being present without reacting. So, it's a practice. I have personally not done it too much, to be honest, but because I can't sit still. And then my favorite is compassion meditation. So compassion meditation can almost be thought of as a prayer. And I think it's kind of funny because, well, not funny, I take that back. I don't think it's funny. But some religions, they don't want you to meditate. But I think praying is a form of meditation. And so, so it all kind of goes in line. So compassion meditation is when you reflect on a difficult person or even yourself, like if you're having a hard time just with yourself in some way, or a difficult event. And so you go through a process where you're concentrating on that, what had happened, but you acknowledge it, and you acknowledge that you were hurt, you acknowledge that suffering is a normal part of life. And in doing so, you can relate maybe to the other person if you're thinking about another person, and why they might have reacted the way that they did. Because really, all we're looking for is contentment in life. We're looking for joy and happiness. And so that person might have reacted in that way because they felt threatened, or their joy felt threatened, I guess. So it's a meditative process where you work through that, but at the end, what I really like is you have an act where you're putting your hand over your heart, and you repeat this mantra. So let's do the breath again, and I'll say this out loud for you. So you're going to breathe in for 4 through the nose. Hold for 7, and breathe out for 8. So, may I be happy, may I be healthy and safe, may I be kind to myself, may I accept myself the way that I am, may I find freedom from suffering, may I be an example of peace. And breathe out peace. I'm going to do it again. May I be happy, may I be healthy and safe, may I be kind to myself, may I accept myself the way that I am, may I find freedom from suffering, may I be an example of peace. Okay, so if you still don't trust me, I have all this awesome research about compassion meditation. So that's the Dalai Lama with Richard Davison, who is a researcher out in the University of Wisconsin, and he's the founder of the Center for Healthy Minds. And so when he met the Dalai Lama was like, hey, why don't you study something positive instead of studying like anxiety and depression and serotonin drugs and all this? Why don't you just study meditation? So he did. And so in order to understand his research, it's important to know that our brain has 2 sides, a right and a left, and it's the right prefrontal cortex. When there's more activity in the right prefrontal cortex, the person is having more anxiety and depression, more thoughts along that pathway. When it's the left prefrontal cortex, that's more activity where the person is feeling content and they are feeling happy within their life. So he decided he would take some MRI images to see where the neurons were firing in Tibetan monks. And so he found that the neurons were firing much more so on the left prefrontal cortex. So then he took a group of individuals who didn't meditate at all. He took an MRI image of them, and then he asked them to meditate for 30 minutes for 2 weeks. After that 2 weeks time period, he repeated the MRI, and he found, again, more neurons firing in the left prefrontal cortex. And so what is cool about this meditation is basically it tells us how we can train for like an event, like a running event or something like that. We can train our brains for times of stress, because exercise is basically stress, and so we have stress in our life. And so with daily practice, we could teach our brain pathways to fire differently. So I really think that's pretty cool. So meditate. Here are some apps that are good for meditation, kind of if you need something to help walk you through, to help with your conscious awareness, to quiet it. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about manual medicine, which is, I'm going to focus on massage, but so massage is manipulation of the muscle, chiropractic is spinal manipulation, and osteopathic is musculoskeletal manipulation along with physical therapy. So massage is manipulation of muscles and soft tissues of the body, and most of the evidence is very positive for massage. So it helps neck and back pain, joint pain, osteoarthritis, headaches, anxiety, insomnia, some digestive disorders, soft tissue injuries, sports injuries, and then fibromyalgia. When you go for a massage, probably the most common type of massage is Swedish massage, which follows 5 discrete stroke patterns. So there's Epilage, which is how they typically start out, and so that's the soothing stroke pattern. There's hair massage. Oh, I practice this to say that. I think that's almost right. So it's kneading and lifting of the tissue to help remove toxins. And then there's friction. So this produces heat to increase blood flow to help move the toxins out. And then vibration. And then they end with tacopement, which is rapid percussive, like, I don't know who's ever gone for a massage, but that's found to be stimulating, and so you're ready to get up off of the table. So, then there's lymphatic massage. So lymphatic massage is really important because sometimes people can get lymphedema from when the lymph nodes are removed. Common after breast surgery. And so basically that's when the practitioner is going to rub and press in the direction of lymph drainage. So it helps us push the fluid out. Then there's prenatal massage, which is really great because it helps with leg and back pain, anxiety, depression, and sleep. There are some precautions though. You don't want the practitioner to do deep pressure strokes to the abdomen, so those want to be light. You don't want to get a massage in your first trimester because that may induce a miscarriage. If a person was having any nausea, vomiting, or morning sickness, then you wouldn't want to get a massage. And if you were a high-risk pregnancy, just because it could, you wouldn't want to do it. It can increase that risk of miscarriage. And then there's structural integration or rolfing, which is really a realignment through reorganization and lengthening of the connective tissue and fascia of the muscles and organs. So fascia encapsulates our muscles and our organs. It's beneficial in reducing pain, increasing flexibility, improving posture and athletic performance because it's helping with the flexibility. There is a practitioner at Elevate Wellness, which is here in town, who specializes in that. She's board certified. Her name's Heather Valentine. So if any of you are interested in looking into that any further. And then there's Craniosacral Therapy. You might have heard of that. It's considered energy work. It's when the practitioner uses light touch on the sutures of the cranium. So I think that could be controversial because we're thought to, as medical people that the sutures are closed, they don't move, but they also act on the facial muscles. So it's supposed to help with flow of cerebrospinal fluid, and it's beneficial for migraine, musculoskeletal, neck pain, depression, and anxiety. That's where most of the research is positive for it. So since we talked about massage, it's probably good to throw in aromatherapy because that's my new fun thing. So there's a lot of benefits to aromatherapy. Relaxation, improved concentration. It's lots of studies for insomnia, depression, anxiety. It can help hot flashes. Oils, essential oils can be antifungal, some anti-inflammatory, and bactericidal. So, but there's a lot of safety. I think people don't know about the whole safety aspect of essential oils. You never really want to do like a spot treatment of essential oil. It should always be diluted in a carrier oil. And the carrier oil might be like grapeseed or apricot kernel oil or something like that. But so it can be used topically or inhaled. And then I know that some people use it dietary, but I decided to keep that out. And then you always want to make sure you're getting a therapeutic grade oil because you want to ensure that it has good purity. So how does aromatherapy work? Well, smell is our most direct means of communication with nature. When that person there, when they're smelling the rose, it is transmitted, the aroma is transmitted through the olfactory bulb, which is part of our nervous system, and then it's interpreted and translated to the limbic system, which is the foundation of our memory and our emotion. So when you smell something, that's why it can induce a memory or an emotion. So lavender is good for if you inhale lavender, it's good for calming. It promotes sleep. I have patients a lot of times use like a lavender hydrosol to spray on their bed sheets for sleep. And then peppermint, it's good for attention and focus when inhaled. Topically, it can be used for hot flashes, headaches, and digestion. So for hot flashes, you put it on the back of your neck or on your wrists or both. For headaches, you're at the temporal area, and then it's good for digestion by just massage of the abdomen. You want to avoid that oil in pregnancy. So wintergreen helps, for awareness. It's a great anti-inflammatory, anticoagulant, antispasmodic, analgesic. That means it's good for pain, and it causes vasodilatation, so it brings blood flow. So a lot of things, a lot of salves or things for muscles have wintergreen in it because it increases blood flow there and then it relaxes the muscles. So musculoskeletal spasm, joint pain, and again, you would want to actually avoid that one for pregnancy if the person was epileptic or if they're taking warfarin or aspirin or any blood thinners. It actually would promote more, it would increase, it would increase your risk for bleeding. And then the other thing about oils is some of them you want to be careful with in the sunshine. So I have a handout. I didn't pass you out. Oh, okay. So, and then I have these oils I forgot about. So this is lavender. And then this one is peppermint. Yeah, I would think so. That was one thing with the moxibustion. They have smokeless mugwort for people who have asthma. But I don't know, like, off the top of my head. Like, probably you wouldn't want to diffuse them. I think some could probably help asthma, like eucalyptus would be good. It was actually cypress would be good for that. And I have a list at home because I was actually going to make something for circulation. But cypress was one of the main things on there. Ginger is really good for circulation too. So there's about 5.
To rub the ginger with an oil?
Oh, I would get an essential oil, and then there's a way to dilute it. If you're going to use oils, I would suggest getting a book because it talks about the dilutions of like a carrier oil with your essential oils. So actually this lady lives in Nevada City, the first author of this book, and this other lady, she talked to us at the fellowship. She gave us a lecture on aromatherapy. So it was a really good book. She's very knowledgeable, but this would be the book that I'd recommend. Okay, so basically exercise is medicine. There's tons and tons of research that we all should be exercising. Our body needs to move. I'm not going to talk about these very long because I think most people know that. So it's good for weight control, reducing cholesterol, reducing diabetes risk, so improves blood sugar control, reduces blood pressure, reduces and prevents back pain. It prevents back pain because if you're exercising in a controlled environment, you're strengthening your muscles of your skeleton. Reduces cancer risk, improves mood. There's tons and tons of research out there where exercise is better than some pharmaceuticals for depression. But the problem is when someone's really depressed, they don't want to exercise. So hand in hand, when they're combined together, they work really great for people. Boosts energy and improves sleep. So being active is not exercise. I have a lot of patients tell me that they have a very active job. It doesn't count. You burn a lot of calories, and that's good, but you're not protecting your skeleton. So unfortunately, when people do that, they're at higher risk for having injury on the weekend when they go and they snowboard or something like that. So, it doesn't take a whole lot to exercise. You can actually get a good workout in 20 minutes. 20 minutes, I think the minimum recommendation is 30 minutes 3 times a week. So, and then there's really great programs. There's really great programs in our town. There's the BFIT program at Barton, and which is in conjunction with LTCC and community ed. So if you're interested in those classes, you should go to the community ed website at Lake Tahoe Community College. And then there's lots of great other outside programs. And it's good to either join a group, have a friend, have someone to keep you accountable. Okay, so a little bit about food. Hippocrates had it right a long time ago when he said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. So I will tell you, everyone should eat cruciferous vegetables at least 5 to 9 a day. That's what the research is that says that when you eat a high quantity of cruciferous, that it decreases your rate of colon cancer by 40%. So it's a pretty good risk reduction. So what is that? For those of you who don't know, that is broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, collard greens, kale, water chest, turnips. So there's your list. So your food can actually be medicine. I think most people know they should eat whole food, not processed food now. Okay, I jumped ahead, I'm sorry. So our gut health and what we eat is super important because it has a lot to do with our immune system and our mental health, much more than I think people think. And it's because serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter, is manufactured in the brain by tryptophan, which we get from foods because that's an amino acid. And the serotonin acts to relay messages to our brain cells, and that affects our mood. So the reason why our gut's so important is because serotonin is about 90% of it is stored in our gut. And so our brain basically is talks to our gut. If you get an infection, it depletes your stores of serotonin. So these foods here are good for mental health. So saffron is an expensive spice, but it's a lot less expensive than an antidepressant. Not that I'm saying, I mean, some people need pharmaceuticals. But, for someone who has low-grade depression, instituting a little sunshine, exercise, and changing their diet can be enough for that person. Mild, low-grade depression. So, saffron helps increase serotonin in our brains. Nutmeg slows down the breakdown of it from our gut. So you could have some warm tea at night, add a little nutmeg instead of sugar. You want to eat foods rich in B vitamins because the B vitamins help bring the serotonin to the help with the pathway of the serotonin. So bananas, avocados, chicken, whole grains, actually quinoa is loaded with B vitamins, so it's a good choice. And then leafy greens. And then you want to eat foods that are rich in vitamin D. Because I'll tell you, almost everyone in town has a vitamin D deficiency. So fish, that'd be salmon, mackerel, trout, tuna, and halibut. Mushrooms, portobello, maitake, shiitake, eggs, and fortified dairy. And that could include almonds and coconut milk, rice milk. And the reason why I put D there, because D, I can have a whole lecture on vitamin D, but D helps with mood. It helps with mood, it helps your immune system, it helps calcium absorption into your bones. It helps with weight loss. People who are D deficient have a hard time losing weight. Okay, so prebiotics. You have prebiotics and you have probiotics. So what are prebiotics? Those are dietary substances that favor the growth of beneficial bacteria in the gut. So they're often found in food ingredients for biscuits, cereals, chocolates, spreads, and dairy products. These are the common strains of prebiotics. Oligofructose, inulin, galactosaccharide, lactulose, breast milk oligosaccharides. So oligosaccharides occurs naturally in actually a lot of our foods. So by eating these foods, which would be wheat, onions, bananas, honey, garlic, and leeks, we're promoting our own bacterial growth of good bacteria. And so here's the good bacteria. So probiotics are actually the live microbes within our gut. They're found in fermented foods, so that's why I brought all this fermented food that I think I'm going to have to eat, unless you guys eat some. But the common beneficial species of probiotics are lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. There's definitely more strains that are of benefit. Those are the two main ones that you're looking for when you when you buy a supplement. Usually, if you get a probiotic supplement, you want to find something that has mixed flora, and it'll mostly contain those too, because there's different strains of those even. And so a common dosing for an adult would be 10 billion CFUs, which are colony-forming units a day, or just eat fermented food. Okay, so what are the probiotic benefits? So helps with antibiotic diarrhea. So if you're going to go on antibiotics, I'd probably take a probiotic just to prevent. Helps with irritable bowel disease, inflammatory bowel disease, vaginal infections, immune enhancement. So it helps that commercial, I don't know if they play it a lot, about taking probiotics for your immune health are right. So, and then it helps with dermatitis. So what is a probiotic food? Kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, yogurt, kefir. So just if you buy yogurt and you're planning on getting your probiotics that way, make sure the sugar content is low. Make sure it says it has live active cultures in it. You don't really, well, I shouldn't say a brand. You don't want something that has fruit in it usually. You want to add fruit. Buy whole fruit, add it to plain or vanilla yogurt. So, there's a great nutrition class coming up through the Community Ed program, and it is hosted by one of our nurses from Barton, Beth Damerall, and she went and she studied Food for Life, which is a program that has been endorsed to help in the treatment of cardiovascular disease and diabetes, and I don't know.
She's also speaking at Mom's Morning Out on April.
Oh, good. Okay. So how do we do supplementation? How do we know if what we're taking is of quality and safe? So you should always tell your doctor first what you're taking. I think a lot of times people you ask them what they're taking and tell you the medicines. And I always have to fish. I have to go fishing and find out more information, and I usually find out a lot. Because things over the counter can interact with pharmaceuticals, and then just herbs. Things that are natural, that's great, but they can have interactions. They may not be the right choice for you. It might not be safe. So it's always good to have a discussion with someone who's knowledgeable, definitely your doctor, because they're prescribing you pharmaceuticals probably. So follow the dosing instructions, tell your doctor, look for verification seals, and there's 3 good ones I'm going to tell you about. So one is the U.S. Pharmacopoeia's USP Dietary Supplement Verified Seal of Approval, and that's what it looks like, that you would have that on your bottle. Be cautious of products manufactured outside of the U.S. and avoid dangerous herbs because they can actually be toxic to the liver. That would be ephedra, kava, chaparral. Those 3 are pretty bad. And then do your homework on the brands you're using. So I always look things up. So the United States Pharmacopoeia is a scientific nonprofit organization, and they actually set the standards for our pharmaceutical drugs. So they set the standards for identity, strength, quality, and purity of medicines, food ingredients, and dietary supplements. But the thing is that a dietary supplement doesn't have to have that certification to be sold over the counter, so you need to look for it. So their standards are actually used by a lot of other countries, and then I already said that on the bottom. This is another verification that you would want to look for, NSF. It actually used to be called the National Sanitary Foundation, which I think is kind of funny. But it's an independent organization of scientists and public health experts that test and certify supplements. And their certification program is pretty rigorous. So if you see that one, that's a good one. They have the URL on the bottom. That's a website where you can search your supplement that you've bought to see if it has a certification if you're uncertain. And then I use this one a lot. This is Consumer Lab. This is actually a private company, and it tests a lot of different branded products and allows companies, if they pass, to have their seal of approval. But it offers testing information to the public for a small subscription, which is like $3 a month. But it's worth it because it's like, there's their URL, but it's like the consumer reports of supplements. So you'll get this, you can look something up like CoQ10, and it'll have a whole printout of all the different brands, what it costs, what's in it, how effective it is. So you can kind of navigate through and pick which one is the best one for the cost. What's the best you can get. So there's those 3 again. You want to look for those seals. And then this was actually one of my professors. She was the director at the Integrative Medicine. She wrote this book. It's right here. It's called Fortify Your Life. It's actually a pretty good book on supplementation and dosing of supplements. Because you have to be careful on your fat-soluble supplements. You could overdose on those. And I think that's it. So wellness is a journey. It's not a destination. And I'm sure all of you have your own story to tell about that. But thanks for coming in, and I hope that you learned something from me or had a good time or had some good sauerkraut.
Have you noticed the agricultural land beside the Carson River? This privately owned land supplies local food and maintains the scenic character of our community. Often overlooked, this open agricultural land does another vital job. It's the river's floodplain, and it protects us from potential flood devastation. For over 150 years, ranchers and farmers have cultivated these fertile lands, resulting in the open land along the Carson River we enjoy today. The floodplain is the low-lying area along rivers and streams that regularly floods, especially during a rain-on-snow event or in years with a heavy Sierra snowpack. Maintaining agriculture in the floodplain keeps people safe and minimizes flood damage and cost. If these areas are developed, upstream floodwaters are restricted by levees, roads, and structures and cannot move freely onto the floodplain. This narrowing of the natural water course causes the river to flow faster and deeper, increasing the risk of catastrophic flood damage. Agricultural lands by their nature are minimally developed, allowing floodwaters to spread out, slow down, and sink in. Residents and businesses are kept out of harm's way and save money that would otherwise be spent on repairing flood damage. For example, due to the abundance of agricultural lands along the Carson River, 1997 flood damages were limited to $29 million for all counties. In contrast, $686 million was spent in Washoe County alone to repair the much more developed Truckee River corridor. In addition to flood control, safety, and savings, these open fields provide many environmental benefits. They recharge groundwater, improve water quality, and provide wildlife habitat. Conserving floodplain lands is supported by the public in Carson River watershed communities. Land use tools such as conservation easements, acquisitions, and ordinances can be used to maintain the floodplain and be compatible with agricultural lands. For decades, conservation easements have allowed agricultural producers to sustain operations, keeping agricultural lands along the Carson River open and productive. Based on a 2015 floodplain inventory, these land use tools have permanently set aside 12,300 acres of floodplain within Douglas County, Carson City, and Lyon County. However, 2/3 of the Carson River's floodplain remains vulnerable to increased development, which will increase the risk of flooding.
So floodplains are very important, not only agriculturally, but also environmentally, aesthetically, and to the community as a whole. Support of open ranch land along the Carson River not only enables us to maintain our way of life, it provides local food into our communities, and it also enables Holly Family Farms to continue providing organic products that feed our neighbors.
Having agricultural lands in the floodplain provides local food, contributes to our economy, improves our environment, and maintains our quality of life, all while keeping our communities safe. It makes sense to support agriculture in the floodplain as a community asset. Let's work together to protect the Carson River floodplain.